Horror Lies.
Hey guys, Rob from Georgia here with you. It is week 334 at BodyBags. I am your Wednesday night host, VHS82 apostrophe. Man, the week that comes just before theme week, which, of course, if you did not know, centers around unearthed films. Ought to be a pretty crazy week here at BodyBags. But this week, the week before, I just absolutely love this movie. Going back again, staying in the 70s, actually not even that much of a leap in order to draw some interesting parallels between this and the last one I did, Piranha, but the Crazies. From 1973, George A. Romero. I think this is the first George A. Romero film that I reviewed for BodyBags. And what an absolutely intriguing, powerful, unnerving film. And of course, I'm still riding the Blue Underground DVD release of this bad boy. And I do, if I had any complaints, and I rarely ever have complaints with DVDs and whatnot, I really do wish it would have been more of the original artwork cover that I remember as a kid, because, man, I guess that's where I want to start. When I was a kid or a teenager, and now we used to go into the video rental back in the VHS days, right? And of all the cover art that I remember as a kid and just being absolutely captured by, the Crazies is one of them. It was just the guy in white with the mask, just a little more pronounced, though, took up more of the cover, I think. But I don't know, there's just something about that image. Something for a kid, you get caught up and you just wonder, what the freaking crap's this all about? What is this? And I know I probably watched it when I was young, and I'm sure I couldn't have appreciated the amount of depth or criticisms that George was leveling at, in this case, authority in general, but the military establishment, higher ups, all the way up through. Of course, we are. This is 1973, so our involvement in Vietnam is finally coming to an end, but you have Watergate, you have, just a lot of things happening where society in general is starting to look at authority very suspiciously. I was thinking, I was mentioning to, I think my wife the other day, how funny it is that you can go back to a film like 1951, The Thing from Another World, and the military is held at such a high level and put on such a high pedestal, and the scientists are the ones who denigrated and brought low and attacked violently. But in this case, things have really sort of switched around. Now you've got the military that ought to be feared with everything, and scientists that are put in a much more sort of subtle, good light in a way. But the Crazies, this is a film that is dated only aesthetically. I mean, it's one of those films that comes from the 70s, you put it in and you immediately go, that's the 70s. It's weird with a movie like Jaws you put in and it's not like that. Jaws just seems to still live in a way that never seems to be to date itself. I don't know why. I mean, there's 70s things in there, but I mean, with the Crazies, it's one of those films, and maybe part of it is the lower budget end of things, but man, when you see this movie, it screams 1970s. And if you have a hard time watching a movie that really owns the time period that it was made in, I'd still say you got to give this movie a chance if you've never seen it, because of the message and what George was trying to get across, the fear he was instilling in people in terms of the authority that figures in our life, and mostly those higher up, though. And the military really does take center stage. Really what you have here is, alternatively, the film is known as codename Trixie. You have a virus that supposedly, we're told, accidentally crashes up in the hills of this town, the Emmons City, Pennsylvania. And of course, the military is pretty much there on scene in quick order with Major Ryder. But they're dragging their feet a bit, at least the higher ups. And it's almost kind of like you get the sense, well, you're told this is an accident, the plane went down, this virus that is a biological war weapon has just been unleashed on this small, unsuspecting town through their water supply. And the movie opens up with a very horrific scene involving a father having killed his wife, about to burn up his house with his children in it. And so this is the beginning of Trixie taking hold of this town. But by the time the military establishment really settles in and quarantines the place, locks down, there is a shoot to kill order. There is, it's almost as if the order of the day is, let the town just kill itself out. We really want to see what's happening here. Even though we're told, you know, in the beginning that this is an accident that the military is trying to get hold of. Well, the very end of the film sort of undermines that with a bit of dialogue that we get being hammered at Colonel Peckman, who actually comes in early on to relieve Major Ryder. But you have a lot of, man, I mean, you get a central core, really three main characters in Judy, David, and Clank. Judy and David, of course, are a pair. She's pregnant. Clank is sort of the third wheel, but more than that, he is a very close friend of David's. And, you know, and together, as this crap is starting to explode outward, they're able to get out of Dodge, so to speak, or at least out of the center of town. And so the film really follows them. It sort of follows the military as they're entrenched, as they lock down, as sporadic fights break out between citizens and military officials dressed in their NBC gear and their masks and everything. You got choppers flying over, you got martial law, you've got just this small town that's just been, you know, paralyzed with fear. And the citizens are, you know, there's multiple references to let's get the guns out of their hands, and even in the higher ups who are debating the final solution, if they can't get their hands, if they can't get it locked down, then perhaps, you know, drop a nuke on it. You know, they're already working out their explanations to the general American, I was gonna say public at large, as to explain themselves what terrible mishap has happened. And so you really, so you're sort of, you know, you're in a few places, you know, throughout the film, and but a lot of the action comes with traveling with Judy and David and Clank, and over time, and they do have another older guy or father and his daughter. Eventually you find out they've been infected, and you just see, you know, at times you see the effect of Trixie. And I guess, you know, in terms of the Vietnam War, like Piranha, you know, the Piranha were designed to basically shut down the northern rivers in the north, as far as the North Vietnamese, shut down their river systems. Trixie is really meant to hit the population and cause them to basically turn inward on one another and self-implode. And, you know, two films, The Crazies and Piranha, that, man, just beg your imagination to just think what it would have been like if you're in a northern Vietnamese soldier trying to cross a river and you got these monster piranha taking you down, or perhaps it's a city in Vietnam that suddenly has Trixie unleashed on it. And so, you know, you get these stories as they're told, the narrative, and, you know, your imagination just sort of starts to wander like, dang, this would have been crazy. And it does make you wonder, what's been tried that we don't know about? I mean, you know, it's, you know, it is kind of scary. We know, I mean, just in the history of Iraq, we know that Saddam Hussein unleashed biological weapons on chemical warfare on the Shiites. So, I mean, this stuff happens where governments turn on their people, and, you know, and just to see it happen here in America, to watch these military soldiers clad in NBC gear, it's an intimidating thing to see them just force their way into houses, into bedrooms, dragging kids out. I shouldn't say, you know, they show some care towards the children, but really, I mean, it's intimidating to see them tell people just, get out now, we're taking you to the school, blah, blah, blah. And so it becomes a real exercise on, man, what would we do if we were faced with something like that? I mean, I would like to think people would fight back, but, you know, in this case, this is a military biological war weapon that is unleashed on its own. It's a scary thought, and like I said, with the end, the very end is, you know, if you thought Night of the Living Dead, the original, was quite a shocking end and a downer for that movie, This one, man, packs a punch all of its own as well, which I'll just kind of stay away from. If you've never taken the time to watch Romero's The Crazies, I don't want to ruin the end completely, and I've probably set up enough of the film to intrigue you at least. And you know, another component that's interesting, Clank, the third wheel of the three, he realizes he's been infected, and so as he starts to go downhill a bit, he will allow himself to basically buy Judy and David time in hopes that they'll get out. And so, I mean, you do have moments of heroism, moments of sacrifice, and, you know, just people with the wherewithal to do what is right. But at the same time, you do see the effect of Trixie as people start to implode on one another. And there's this one scene that stands out. Right after a massive shootout between citizens and military officials, you get this lady just going out into the field. I mean, she's in the field with a broom, just sweeping up the blood, man. Just sweeping up the blood off the grass. It's just, man, it's one of those films that if you could just get past the aesthetic, you know, of it being a very, very 70s era film, it is a film you need to watch closely. I mean, because you're going to miss something. You're going to miss something in the dialogue. Dr. Watts, man, who is Richard France? He, of course, Dawn of the Dead, man. We see him on the TV going absolutely ballistic. But he's in here playing a scientist who I think accidentally gets brought into the town when he should have never been brought into the town. And his end is really anticlimactic. Although, you know, a lot of open sort of framing shots that make us wonder just how much of this was an accident, how much of this was just a flat-out test. It is really scary when you consider, especially the very, very end, the role of these officials, how some of them turn. You get a very powerful scene involving a pastor who just cannot come to terms with, and you don't know it, perhaps he's been infected with the virus himself. But there is a powerful scene that brings back the emulation scene with the Buddhist monk in Vietnam who lights himself up, and this pastor would do the same. And it's so there's a lot of moments, man, that just, it's scary, man. Just to think that the military at any given time could unleash something like this on a small population and then go in and lock things down, and then just you just see things unravel and escalated right. And you know, the other thing that makes films like The Crazies really cool, and I do believe Arrow put out a nice edition of this. I'm pretty sure it was Arrow with a fine cover as well. I just, my thought went, and I think I just lost the thought I was just about to say. Well, anyhow, you know, The Crazies will set up, help in part set up Romero's moving on from Night of the Living Dead into Dawn of the Dead, his 78 masterpiece. And then, of course, we'll see his career continue to unfold. Also, the guy I mentioned with the daughter who tags along with the three, he, of course, is Logan from Day of the Dead. So, I mean, there are some surprises in here in terms of casting, and, you know, people that he had close to him. And, you know, the film, you know, there's been some criticisms that, you know, with regards to, you know, the acting and just the film overall. Dude, this movie, man, this movie works on so many levels. It's pretty scary. I think I knew what I was going to say before. You know, this is still at a time when cliche really isn't a word, I don't think. I mean, today things have been done over and over and over to the point of ad nauseum. And so it's refreshing to go back and visit a film where things were still fresh, things were new and shocking, especially to those first watching. So anyways, week 333, man, I say if you've never seen it, you gotta watch this, man. Who would not watch anything George A. Romero made? I mean, come on, man. And this is title day, of course, and just doing this video a little early, so we've got the, we'll find out who goes to the Super Bowl later, but it is week 334, and get ready for a theme week next week as we take a look at the unearthed films. I'll be taking a look at Bone Sickness, and man, I'm looking forward to next week, as with every week here at BodyBags. So just continue to check us out. I appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for the comments. Just thank you, man, for the support. Man, enjoy your the rest of Martin Luther King Jr. weekend and the week that lies ahead, man. Hope you have a good work week, man. As always, I leave off with Go Bills.